Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. I wanted to talk about this week's Parsha, Parshas Chukas. Now, a lot of people are upset at me for saying that the Jewish community should distance itself from heretics and apostates. And there's a lesson in Parshas Chukas that teaches us why it's important to distance ourselves from apostates and heretics. Parshas Chukas begins with the laws of the red heifer. And it says, "V'osaf ish tahor es efer par," that a pure man should gather the ashes of the red heifer, and that this is part of the laws of the red heifer. Maimonides brings, it's in the Talmud, a very interesting historical note. Now, within the laws of purity in Levitical purity that we find in Scripture, one thing is that a person needs to immerse in the mikveh to be pure, but sometimes that's not enough. Essentially, immersing the mikveh places you in a limbo state until the sun goes down, until nightfall. And then you accomplish the fullness of that purity. Now, when it comes to this statement where it says ish tahor, the tradition says that it means that it's enough for someone to go to the mikveh, to be what's called a tvul yom, someone who immersed during the day, and they don't have to wait till nightfall, which is similar to the eating of the second tithe in Jerusalem. Also has to be in a state of purity, but it's enough to go to the mikveh and you don't need to wait till nightfall, as opposed to truma, the heave offering that the priests eat, that has to be the full purity that you have to wait till nightfall. Now, during the time of the Second Temple, there was a solo scriptura called the Sadducees, and it's sad, you see. And the Sadducees denied the oral traditions, and they for example, they didn't believe in the afterlife, and for the most part, they tended to be more lenient than the rabbinical traditions. But in certain things, they were more strict, and this was one of those things that they were more strict. Is that they would say if that's not enough to just go to the mikveh, you also have to wait till nightfall. The thing is, I think sometimes they were lenient about what a mikveh was. They didn't, what made someone pure or not, what kind of pool it had to be. But that was part of it. So anyway, Maimonides brings, the Talmud mentions that actually until that in the times of the Second Temple, what the sages would do was that the priest who was preparing the ashes of the red heifer, they would touch him with a sheretz, with some kind of lizard, a dead lizard that have on a stick, and touch him, make him go to the mikveh, and not wait till nightfall, just to show that we weren't following what the Sadducees said. The way Maimonides teaches, it says "Kedei levatel divrei hazedim amarim me'oil ruchim loim in a Kabbalah," that to teach that we're not accepting the teachings of these wanton men, wanton people who make their own interpretations of Scripture, that just whatever they make up that's not from a tradition. And in that way, so it's showing that even to be strict like a heretic, you're not allowed to do. And so therefore, if the heretic is more strict, we can't be strict like them. So that teaches us how far we have to remove ourselves from the heretics. And the Satmar Rebbe says something very interesting. If a person converts and then they revert to their old religion, they are treated as a Jewish apostate and not as a Gentile. Meaning to say, that a Jewish apostate is worse than a Gentile. And that's, there's nothing wrong with being a Gentile. Would you say worse? There's no worse there. But meaning a Gentile, a heathen, who worships idols is allowed to bring a sacrifice to the Jewish God in the Jewish temple. But a Jewish apostate is not. And so that's, again, to show us how strict we have to be to keep away from heretics and to distance ourselves from them. The Mishnah says, when talking about the Sadducees, it says that they're not considered Ki Yisrael. They're not considered to be Jews. The question is, if a daughter of Sadducees, does she conduct herself like her ancestors or Ki Yisrael, or like an Israelite, like the Jews? Meaning that they're not part of Klal Yisrael. They're not Jews. That's the types of that's the ideology of our sages. These are the things that we have to embrace, and this is a lesson that we learn from this week's Parsha. So it's appropriate for this time. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.